All right. First, I want to thank. I know everybody says this, but this company is truly incredible, and I want everybody to take some point in today and really think about this company. The systems they have set in place to help us are tremendous. The people that help me every day are amazing. Patty, who deals with me on a daily basis and all my phone calls and stuff, she's amazing. But just, there's a lot of people that touch our files to get it to closing. So just thank those people when you see them. And we're just very blessed to be here. So as he said, I do have a music degree. So my path is a little bit untraditional into the real estate and lending world. I was a band director for 5 years. I lasted 5. From that, I went into the IT world for about a year. And then I was a realtor. Worked for an investment company. Then there was about 6 to 7 months in there I called the dark ages. I got out of real estate. So I got back in as quick as I can, and I worked for new home sales, selling new homes for 2 years. And then I jumped into Sendera funding. Well, kind of Sendera funding. We'll go back to that. One thing I do believe is that God puts you in every position to teach you something. Whether it is teaching 7th graders how to play the drums, or it's working for the investment company that you find out is doing some not so ethical practices, so you leave. I've learned everything that I put together today from those companies. So think about your situation, where you are, and then use that. What can you learn from that situation? There was a time, though, when I thought this decision was not the smartest decision to move over to lending from new home sales. I started with another company. If you guys were here last night, Anthony, I started with Premier for 3 weeks. I was there for 3 weeks. It was an interesting 3 weeks, and it is. The grass is not always greener on the other side, and I'm lucky enough to see that before I got to move here. I saw their processes and what they did, and Judith Smith called me about 2.5 weeks into my stint there and said, "Hey, I know you made a decision where to go, but if you ever need anything, give me a call." So I called her back, and I said, "I need help." It didn't pan out like I wanted to. So basically, she said, "Can you come up here tomorrow?" So I met with her and Anthony, and luckily they said I could start. They hired me there. They took a chance on me because I've never done this before. So I owe a lot to them just for being here today. So thank them for that. For my momentum story, it goes back a little bit further. When I first got into real estate, it wasn't really by choice per se full-time. I worked for the IT department for about a year as an oil and gas company. It was July 4th weekend. I was going to my brother's in East Texas to celebrate, and we stopped at, anybody that knows me, my favorite eating spot, Wendy's. Yes. And I get a phone call, and I answer my phone, which I always do, which will come later. So I walked outside of Wendy's, and they said, "Don't come back to work Monday. We don't have an office anymore." So they shut our office down. So at that point in time, I was in the process of getting my license, my real estate license. So I hung up the phone and went back in, finished my lunch, and talked to my wife about it a little bit. It just so happened the day before that phone call, my wife turned in her letter of resignation to her school where she taught middle school math. So she did that because we started having kids. So it was what we thought in our best interest for her to stay home, and we wanted to make that happen. So I told her, "Stay home, I got this. We'll figure this out." So real estate became full-time very quickly for me in 2009, which was the best market ever to get into real estate. But we made it through that and journeyed on into this. So that event right there really is my momentum event, because there was no plan B. It was me. It was a mindset. I couldn't accept failure because I had them to take care of. It's all about a mindset. It's about taking the failures and what can you do with that. I know you've heard that before today, and you're probably going to hear it a lot again today. But you got to figure out what you can do from those moments. Breathe first, figure it out, and use that. Luckily, we were able to make it, and my wife still stays at home with our kids, which is a blessing to have. So a couple of practices that I did want to reach out to you guys is the first one is very simple, but I cannot tell you how many deals it gets me, is answer your phone. I just got a deal yesterday because I answered my phone. He sent an email today to his manager that I don't know if I was supposed to be copied on, but he said, I'm trying to spread out the loans with other LOs, but Jarredd always answers his phone, so he got this deal. So always answer your phone. And on the flip side of that, call people. Call people back. Call people with news. Call people obviously with the bad news, but also good news. This is a relationship that you're trying to create with the other person on the other side. They don't know anything about this industry. They don't know how to get a loan from point A to point B. You do. So you need to talk to them. Create a relationship. One thing I try to do, my wife is not a person, she hates talking on the phone. And she's like, I don't know how you do it. But I always try to find at least one thing to connect with that person. Whether it be they're a police officer and my brother-in-law is a police officer. Just something that you can connect to because they will remember you for that one thing. And then always remember their events. I do a lot of builder business, so I'm with these people 6, 7, 8 months. Stuff happens in that time. Take note when they tell you of something special coming, and then when you call them back, ask about it. There's a lot of loan officers in this world, and a lot of them don't do that. They just want to close the deal and get a paycheck. So connect with them. Second thing is educate yourself. One thing I try to do is know the programs. Know the rules. They're always changing, yes, but at least know enough. And the Genius Bar is absolutely amazing. I always go ask Tracy questions, and when she gives me the answer, she says, you knew the answer before you came in here. I said, well, I like to know it for sure. So utilize them. Carmen and Tracy are awesome, so utilize them. And the last practice I wanted to talk about was processes. Goals are very important to have, but unless you have the processes to go along to reach that goal, they really mean nothing. You can say you want to close $30 million a year, but if you haven't set yourself up to do that, it's not going to happen. The first thing I always do, and the builder that I worked for had a very extensive training when I was there, and I don't think they do it anymore, which is kind of a shame. But we had a binder, and then I carried that binder with me everywhere I went. But I took the binder with me, and then whenever I wasn't getting the results I wanted, I didn't look outside. I looked inside to what my process was. Something in my process wasn't working to get those people to sign the contract, to buy the new home. So it's important to look at your processes. And everybody has different processes, whether that's hand out X amount of the cards, go talk to this many realtors. Everybody has it different. And not all of them will work for everybody. So you got to find the processes that work. One of the things I learned from the investment company, I worked with the realtors and I was pumping out 20 contracts a week for them and trying to keep track of all that, is Google Docs. I mean, every person I talk to goes on a Google Doc spreadsheet. And I have tabs depending on where they are in the process. And it's just something simple as that, because we can't remember everybody we talk to, but I can make a note that, hey, that person, their son graduated this time, so when I call them back next time, ask about it, So just do that, but it's important to look at your process before you start blaming other people. look what you're doing to create that business. And the last thing is, on this practices is you drive the bus. This is your business, okay? You drive the transaction and you make sure it gets to closing and they sign, okay? So you got to be in charge of it throughout the whole time. We have a lot of people set in place to help us do that, but make sure you are in charge of the transaction, okay? And I'm going to end with a Zig Ziglar quote. I think that makes me look smart, right? End with a Zig Ziglar quote. So this is the one thing I'd like to leave with you guys. Zig Ziglar says, you can't have $1 million dream with a minimum wage work ethic. There's not a magic pill or anything magic. You have to work. When I was a teacher, I read a Max Lucado book, and one thing it said in it was, hard work plus results equals fun. And I plastered that up everywhere. I taught percussion and drums, and I plastered that up everywhere in the drum room. And you know, without the results, you're just working for nothing. So in order to get the results, look at the work. You have to work for it. So I think this is a phenomenal place, and I think we're all blessed to be here. And I think 2017 is going to be incredible. So thank you, guys.